Look at me glisten. My guys are here. It's going right down to the wire in California for Democrats. The Real Clear Politics average of recent polling showing Hillary Clinton holding on to a slim lead. But we've seen a surge in voter registration. And Bernie Sanders has spent days campaigning in Cali. And he's still fighting, taking this shot at Clinton over the foreign money that has gone to the Clinton Foundation.
If you ask me about the Clinton Foundation, do I have a problem when a sitting Secretary of State and a foundation run by her husband collects many millions of dollars from foreign governments, governments which are dictatorships? Do I have a problem with that? Yeah, I do.
Let's bring in our Fox News political insiders. John LeBoutelier, former Republican congressman for New York. Pat Caddell, a former pollster for President Jimmy Carter and Fox News contributor. Doug Schoen, former pollster for President Bill Clinton and a Fox News contributor as well. Too little, too late, Pat?
For what?
Bernie Sanders?
Well, he's very close in California. I'm just, you know, we go back to the comment, nobody gives a thing about, you know, damn about your emails, your damn emails. And not going after the corruption there or raising questions that are serious, which is her basic weakness. Even though Democrats like her, even with Democrats, there are concerns. But I think he's, in my own judgment,
what if he wins California?
If he wins, it doesn't matter. We're going to the convention anyway, but if he wins California, I went to this in '84 with Gary Hart. Winning California allowed us to go on to the convention and, you know, have sort of trouble or not, or whatever deal we were making. We have these things. He's going to go anyway. He has to. He's got a movement. And he's got to address the superdelegates.
A memo to Donald Trump. Watch that clip from Bernie Sanders. That is the case to be made effectively against Hillary in the general election. The foundation, the corruption, the play to pay, the speaking fees, that's her biggest weakness. And that's where he ought to go. But that's for later on.
We'll get into that a little bit later. I am seeing something trend now in my Twitter feed, and that is this idea that people really want him to get off the judge and go back to that.
By the way,
I want to let viewers know we are going to get to that.
The registration numbers.
There is.
Right, let's talk about that a little bit. We've got a graphic we can put up.
Anecdotally, I would guess those are Bernie Sanders voters coming in.
Let's put up the numbers.
And they're not in the poll, therefore.
Look at how many new voters have registered in California. 650,000. 500 of them Democrats, 136 Republicans. What do you make of it?
Harris, this is, if my memory is correct, in the last 45 days, since the beginning of the year, I think there are another million or so. This is all very, very good news for Bernie. And just to talk a little technical politics for a second, I think Pat would probably agree with me. Very tough to pick up new voters in traditional survey research. So I think there's a chance the polls are underestimating Bernie's support when they're showing +2 for Hillary.
When I looked at that huge surge last 5 weeks, a giant surge, and unprecedented in California for the numbers that came in for that short period of time. You got to say it's Bernie's. And the other problem is they're making quite a case because it is difficult. Independents can vote. The Democrats invited them in, and then they made it very difficult because no one will give you a ballot or ask if you want one. You have to ask for one. The people who have already mailed in their ballots are basically, they are basically we shouldn't have early voting in primaries anyway, but too early. But so they're out of it. But it looks like, and I looked at that, and I looked at the field poll, which I have a lot more respect for than any other polling in California. And boy, it looked internally to me, I don't know what it looked like to you, Doug, but it looked like internally to me that I would, if I had money, I'd probably bet it on Bernie.
Yeah, here's the thing. The younger voters, Harris, as Pat suggests, the new registrants, are breaking 65-35 or more for Bernie. That's what gives him a shot. And as Pat said, if he wins, it gives him new life to go forward. He's got a movement. He's raising money. And Secretary Clinton, even though she had a very good week last week, still has major credibility problems.
Yeah. But you know what? From what I understand, before the votes are counted in California and announced, she will have won enough of the elected delegates on Tuesday night, when you add the superdelegates on,
But they're not elected. They're
no,
appointed.
but she will have won enough, plus the superdelegates that are pledged to her, to effectively be called the Democratic nominee.
Right, we're waiting on Puerto Rico at this hour. And by the way, I mean, the polls closed. It's been like 3 or 4
They
hours
have to get into
now.
prisons there and count the
So,
prisoners.
and you're not even being facetious.
No, prisoners in prison can vote.
And we heard that they were voting overwhelmingly
For Hillary.
for Clinton. The Sanders people were upset they couldn't get in the prisons, and they were voting for Hillary. And I didn't want to make a comment about knowing your own.
If I could share a little...
But I do think Puerto Rico, I wouldn't care what the results are in Puerto Rico.
I want to read
They
this.
don't have a democracy.
Because I did a little research on this. More than 1,500 polling locations were originally available to people in that territory. However, the Democratic Party announced that over 1,000 of those locations would not be available.
Yeah.
They shrunk the polling
They're
places to
shrinking the polling
432.
places, basically trying to help the establishment candidate,
Hillary.
Secretary Clinton. One piece of
So what do people in your party do?
Well, that's about what I was going to speak to. It's not been confirmed, but there have been multiple reports that after Secretary Clinton crosses the threshold for the nomination, that President Obama will endorse her candidacy, which is the answer to your question of what will the Democrats do. I think rally around Secretary Clinton, not only for political reasons.
They don't want to wait for her to talk to the FBI?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Exactly what I was going to say.
I'm just asking.
That's what I was going to say. Yes.
The president said in his last interview with Chris Wallace, because, you know, at 60 Minutes he said she had nothing to worry about.
Right.
She told her Chris
Well,
Wallace.
he sent the word. He sent the word.
He said, I can't really say too much right
And
now because they're investigating.
We're on the verge in another one of the, not the FBI, in one of the civil cases where Brian Pagliano, the IT guy that's got immunity in the criminal, he is going to take the fifth, apparently, in this civil litigation.
Wow.
When you start throwing around the Fifth Amendment, it sounds crooked. You know?
Glenn Topping on Twitter, just real quickly, do the polls really even mean much at this point in time?
Well, we're several days away, and they may or may not mean something. They mean much in Michigan. I suspect in California they may. Primaries are always
she was way ahead 3 months ago in California.
Yeah,
we know from the polling it is close. Yeah.
It's very close, and where he campaigns as well. But I want to go back to this other point about what we just said about, you know, there was a piece Kim Strassel did, I think last week or this Friday, on the fact her lawyer. It took Mills was taking the fifth in the hearings.